Have you ever tried to help someone who is upset? Like you offer a perfectly logical, super thoughtful solution to their problem, only to watch them get even angrier at you? Honestly, it's one of the most frustrating yet totally relatable communication fails we all go through. You were just trying to help, right? So why did it blow up in your face? Well, psychology tells us we're probably just using the exact wrong conversational tool for the job. It's kind of like trying to fix a leaky roof when you actually need to put out a fire in the kitchen. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to figure out how to stop having those maddening conversations. We're exploring a highly practical communication tool belt that basically comes down to two distinct, really powerful psychological tools: validation and appreciation. I'm so excited to guide you through this source material because, honestly, mastering these two specific tools, it can completely transform how you connect with your coworkers, your partner, your kids, and your friends.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. We'll start with two tools for connection: C, validation, calming the alarm, and appreciation, powering the positive. Then we'll cover when communication backfires and finish up with putting it into practice. All right, Section 1. Two tools for connection. The right tool for the right job.
Right off the bat, it is absolutely crucial to understand that validation and appreciation aren't just fancy synonyms for being nice. They are fundamentally different mechanisms. Let's look at our first tool. Validation is acknowledging and accepting another person's feelings, perspective, or experience as understandable and legitimate. It literally translates to making valid the other person's experience. But here's the kicker. Pay attention to what's missing from this definition. Validation focuses purely on feelings, and it absolutely does not require agreement. No way. You don't have to agree with their decisions to validate that they are feeling angry, sad, or overwhelmed. You're simply saying, hey, I see you and your emotions make total sense.
And then on the flip side, we have our second tool. Appreciation is expressing gratitude or recognizing the value of someone's actions, qualities, or viewpoint. So while validation is all about that internal world of feelings, appreciation is super concrete. It focuses entirely on recognizing what someone has actually done or what they've given. It's about understanding and speaking directly to the merit of their contributions.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference we've got to remember here. Validation focuses on emotions, saying, I see why you feel that way, it makes sense. Appreciation focuses on actions and efforts, saying, I am so grateful for what you did, it really mattered. Think of it this way. If someone is crying, you don't thank them for crying, right? You validate their sadness. But if someone grinds out a massive report for you, you don't validate their typing skills, you appreciate their hard work.
Moving right along to Section 2. Validation, calming the alarm, the science of feeling heard.
So, why does simply reflecting someone's feelings work like magic? Well, the science of feeling heard is incredibly robust. Just look at this data. A 2013 study by Kim and Kim found that verbal validation didn't just boost people's self-esteem, it significantly reduced their anger and aggression. And over in therapeutic settings like DBT or dialectical behavior therapy, therapists deliberately use validation to diffuse major emotional outbursts. When you accurately reflect feelings back to someone, you are literally telling their brain's interpersonal alarm system that they are safe, understood, and not alone. It literally flips a switch in their brain from a defensive posture right into a cooperative one.
Okay, so how do we actually pull this off? Here are the key steps. First, give them your full, undivided attention, like literally put the phone down. Second, use reflective phrases like, it sounds like you're feeling. Third, show empathy without judgment. Normalize their experience by saying something like, given what happened, I'd feel the exact same way. And fourth, allow silence. Just pause. Let the person actually feel that acceptance. Now, huge warning here. If you jump straight into problem-solving mode, you will completely short-circuit this entire process. Don't do it.
Let's look at what this sounds like out in the real world. Imagine a coworker comes up to you venting that they want to quit because their boss doesn't trust them. Instead of firing off advice, you say, it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated and hurt that your boss doesn't trust you. I get that. Any job would be hard if you felt second-guessed every day. See what happened there? You grabbed their exact emotion, frustrated and hurt, and you completely normalized it. You didn't tell them to quit, and you didn't tell them to stay. You just made them feel 100% heard.
Next up is Section 3, appreciation, powering the positive, reinforcing the good. So the crucial point is, if validation is about emotional diffusion, appreciation is all about positive reinforcement, and it is deeply biological. This is the tool we pull out to build people up. When you thank or praise someone for a specific effort, you literally trigger dopamine circuits. Those are your reward pathways, in both their brain and your own brain. This creates what psychologists call a broaden and build effect, where those positive emotions snowball into deeper connection and resilience. In fact, a fascinating 2022 study out of Illinois found that perceived gratitude actually buffers couples against declining relationship satisfaction even during severe conflict or financial strain. And in the workplace, that exact same dopamine hit is what drives motivation and productivity.
But here's the catch. Tossing out an empty, "good job," as you walk down the hallway just doesn't cut it. To execute appreciation effectively, follow these steps. 1. Be specific about the action. Don't just praise generally, name exactly what they did. 2. Explain the actual impact. Connect their action to a real, tangible outcome so they know why it mattered. And 3. Express genuine, prompt gratitude. The closer your appreciation is to the action, the more powerful that dopamine response is going to be.
Here's a perfect script from the source material for the workplace. I really appreciate how you handled that customer complaint yesterday. You stayed calm and found a solution quickly, and it made the whole situation much better. Notice how hyper-specific that is? It names the action, handling a complaint. It highlights the qualities, staying calm and being quick, and it shows the impact it made the situation much better. I promise you, this motivates people far, far more than a generic compliment ever could.
All right, Section 4, when communication backfires. Risks, misuses, and cultural blind spots.
Look, every tool belt requires some safety warnings, right? If you misuse a hammer, you're going to smash your thumb. If you misuse validation or appreciation, you can actually do real damage to the relationship. Let's review the common risks here. First, empty or insincere statements just breed deep cynicism. If your tone is totally flat and you robotically say, "I'm sorry you feel that way," people will see right through it. Second, over-validation can be a huge trap. If you continuously validate negative feelings without ever setting a limit, you might accidentally feed the drama and reinforce a really toxic cycle. Third, constant appreciation for tiny trivial things can actually create weird feelings of indebtedness or even mask real underlying issues. And finally, we have absolutely got to be culturally aware. In some East Asian cultures, overt emotional validation might feel way too intrusive, since suppressing strong emotion is more the norm there. Likewise, in cultures that highly value group harmony, throwing intense public praise at an individual might cause extreme embarrassment rather than pride. You always have to tailor the tool to the person in front of you.
And finally, Section 5, putting it into practice, the decision flowchart.
So, what does this all mean for you? How do we actually synthesize this in the heat of the moment? The source material provides a brilliantly simple decision flowchart for this. When someone approaches you, the very first critical diagnostic question you must ask yourself is this: is the person expressing emotion or frustration? This single question dictates exactly which tool you pull out of the belt.
If the answer is yes, if they're upset, crying, angry, or just totally overwhelmed, boom, you immediately deploy validation. Do not try to fix the problem, do not try to praise them, empathize, reflect their feelings back to them, and clear the emotional air. Like we said earlier, you have to put out the kitchen fire before you do anything else.
But if the answer is no, they aren't highly emotional. Maybe they just completed a huge task, or they've been working incredibly hard. That is when you pivot to appreciation. You acknowledge what they did and thank them for their specific action. You're just reinforcing that positive behavior.
Let's move to and see how this builds when we combine both tools. It's basically a masterclass in communication. Look at this example. I hear that this project setback is really discouraging. I appreciate that despite this, you've been staying late to fix it. Wow, right? First, it validates the hard week and the discouragement, instantly lowering that emotional alarm. Then, immediately, it appreciates the late hours and the dedication, triggering that dopamine reward pathway. It is deeply empathetic and highly motivating, all in one breath.
Which leaves us with this final thought. How will mastering this tool belt change your very next difficult conversation? Understanding these neurological levers isn't just a sneaky corporate trick. It genuinely creates a virtuous cycle of human connection. By knowing exactly when to validate a feeling and when to appreciate an action, you give people exactly what they need, right when they need it most. So take this flowchart, put on your new tool belt today, and just watch how it transforms your relationships. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.